Okay, welcome to The Winning Balance. I am joined here with one of my favorite human beings in the entire world, Blake Erickson.
Absolute honor, my friend, and that's a high compliment coming from you.
Of course, dude. Blake, his presence is just like one of the most pure things in the world. He's a homie, but also has like this freaking presence that pulls people in. So I respect you a ton. I look up to you. I'm excited to learn from you today and ongoing as our relationship grows, dude. So you're going to hear more about how Blake is the stud he is. Everyone knows Blake in Utah, and the whole world's going to know Blake here any minute now. So
thank you, brother. That means a ton.
Of course, dude. Okay, I'm just going to read his bio because it's spot on. He's done a great job of making that concise. Blake Erickson empowers entrepreneurs to rapidly scale their businesses and transform their lives. In the top 1% of earners worldwide, Blake became a millionaire by 24, investing in real estate and excelling as a salesman and then as a sales leader. He recruited, trained, and led an 8-figure annual revenue door-to-door sales organization for 5 years. Blake is co-authoring with Dr. Benjamin Hardy called The Science of Scaling, helping entrepreneurs rapidly scale, and is the co-founder of scaling.com. So real quick, guys, The Science of Scaling comes out July 29th, correct?
That's right.
Go pre-save that on Amazon right now. I don't care if you have to pause the podcast, whatever you need to do, go pre-save that. Listen, I've had the pleasure to listen to Blake. I've had the pleasure of listening to Ben Hardy on InvestorCon that Blake hosted. I've read Dr. Benjamin Hardy's books. You guys need this book in your lives. Just hearing the brief synopsis at the event that you came and spoke at for my community, Blake, I've been implementing those, and my business already has gone to new limits. So that's a plug right there.
Nothing makes me happier, man. For real.
It's working. So you're making the world a better place. So
Thanks,
guys,
man.
Please go pre-save that on Amazon, The Science of Scaling. And then if you are interested in building your business and scaling your business the right way, scaling.com is where you should head. Not everyone's going to get accepted. Blake doesn't want to surround himself around people that aren't worth his time, right? So scaling.com, if you want more info there. I love it. Okay, this second paragraph in the part that I love, I always tell people I no longer look up to money at this phase of my life, having my first kid, 5 months old. If you don't have your family in check, right? It's like money's not more important than family. So Blake's done a wonderful job with that. His most cherished accomplishments include marrying his wife, Bree, raising their sons, Covey and Oaks, cutest names ever. Blake's profound education came from his 2 years in Peru as a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, dedicated to serving God. I love how you hit on your mission a ton and the lessons that you've learned. I mean, just from chatting with you, hearing about your mission president and like the influence that's came from there, I think it's absolutely amazing.
Thanks, brother.
Of course, dude. I served my mission in Indianapolis, and I was always so worried. I'm going to go dedicate 2 years of my life. And my first worry, definitely worldly, was like, I'm going to get behind. All my peers are going to go on 2 years into college. And obviously that was complete the opposite. Yeah. I came back equipped with more discipline, grounded, complete different human being that I'll always look back on my mission and appreciative of that. So too much talking from Tanner.
I love it. You're amazing, brother.
Erickson. Dude, the first part I wanted to dive into, and please talk to me about your journey of meeting Bree and where this came into your career success. But talk to me. You became a top 1% earner in the door-to-door space, correct?
Yeah.
And absolutely killed it there. I'd love to hear your journey of getting started in that realm and how you grew to what you did.
Yeah, happily. It was amazing. Door-to-door was incredible for me. One thing, I was on my way over here and I was thinking, how did I meet Tanner? I was reflecting back to like our first experience together. And there's one thing that I think your audience would really appreciate that I love about you is we threw this event, InvestorCon. It was awesome. But my favorite part of the event was this VIP event that we threw. Brandon Turner, Dave Allred, just some awesome people came. And I reached out to a handful of people. Brody reached out to a handful of people. And I got mixed responses. Majority were, oh man, that's unbelievable, no brainer, like, cool, sign me up. And I remember one specific response. I got a text from a friend who's pretty big into real estate. And he texts me, says, no, I don't think spending 4 hours of my time is worth $2,000. Like, I don't think only 4 hours with Brandon or this VIP would be worth $2,000. I was like, huh. And then I remember talking to you the next day and you were like, dude, this is the easiest investment I ever made. Like, this is a ripoff for you guys. And I remember hearing this contrast. I'm just like, yeah, that guy's operating on a different level. So love you, love who you are, brother. And just who you're, like, your way of being is so inspiring. And I look up to you and want to be way more like you. So thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you, Blake.
You're welcome, man. So I think for me, it all started at Gilbert, Arizona. Unbelievable parents. I'm one of 7 kids. It's 6 boys. And then the last one's a girl. And she's
protected then.
Yeah. Dude. So let's just say whoever she marries is going to have a rough time. Yeah. But we just grew up in just an unbelievable household with incredible parents. And it's interesting because for like their influence and beliefs and opinions still influence me to this day. And I'm not ashamed to say that. And because I love how they lived and I love that what they had, and I wanted something similar. And so when I was in high school, I got involved in football, and it was my first taste of like being all in on something. I was never all in at school. I was a C student, got a 16 on the ACT. Just not my cup of tea. But I remember being in football. I'm like, man, I will spend every waking second. I'll sacrifice anything to be good at this, or to score touchdowns, or to start, etc. And I remember craving that feeling, like, man, I just want to be so committed to something. And after football season ended my senior year, I had some older friends that were out serving a mission. And I was reading their emails, and I had brothers I had served, and I just was seeing how impactful and life-changing it was for them, kind of like you mentioned a couple minutes ago. And I then shifted my focus to like, all right, I'm all in on football. Now that's done, let me shift my focus to this. And genuinely that decision to go all in on serving a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has altered everything I've done up to this point in my life. And that's kind of like where I start my story. And long story short, those 2 years were like 20 years of learning compressed into 2, 20 years of growth, 20 years of maturity, 20 years of trials, obstacles, you name it, you experience all of it. And I just came out the other end with so much clarity of what life is about, and so much clarity what Blake Erickson's about, and so much clarity of how I want to make a dent and who I can help. And I remember just feeling like, man, how can I give the rest of my life to service in the best way possible? Because really, I just wanted to keep serving my mission somehow, but I knew I had to figure out how to provide for myself and grow. And I remember talking with my mission president, who's been an amazing mentor. Funny enough, he's now the CEO of the company we just started. And
so cool.
He's amazing. And I remember saying to him, like, how do I keep serving? And he said, Blake, service and business are not separate. They are aligned and they're together. You can do service through business in an incredible, impactful way. And so when I finished my mission, similar to transitioning from football to my mission, it was, okay, transition from my mission now to business. And with the same intention of like, man, I just want to serve and help. So I come home and part of that was I really was interested in getting married. And I knew that, it's not good for a man to be alone. Additionally, I believe one of the greatest things that we can do as fathers and as human beings is by multiplying, by having kids. I believe that's one of the greatest legacies I could leave is who my kids turn out to be. Because if you think one kid could go and he could impact thousands and thousands, and those thousands go impact thousands and thousands. So if I have 5 kids, it's probably the greatest way I could possibly serve.
So true.
So very intentional about that. And I remember writing when I got home, here's the type of woman that I want to marry. Here's how many kids I want. Here's what I want to do from a career standpoint. These are the people I want to impact. This is how much money I want to make. And here in Utah, they always talk about living life by design. And I did it unintentionally. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just was like, I'm just going to plan everything. And it was the best thing I ever did when I was 20 years old, sitting down and just saying, what do I want? Who can I serve? And in what time frame am I going to do it? And God has just had this funny way of just helping a lot of those things come to pass. And it's been beautiful. And so without dragging this on too much, for the first year of being home from my mission, I went and did software sales for a startup company. I was the 3rd or 4th employee. It was amazing education. That company failed. But it was like so cool. I was sitting next to the CEO and the president, and I'm learning all these things. And when I'm at school, I should be listening to class, but I got AirPods in, YouTube, Audible, podcasts, anything I could possibly consume about business. And this year became like the greatest university for my life, devouring books, devouring all types of content, having these amazing experiences, being in a startup field. At the same time, I started a Christmas light company and a window washing company. I was just doing everything, which I don't recommend at all. But just in the act of doing, I was learning so much. And once the tech company kind of failed, I at the same time, I had 3 or 4 of my best friends doing summer sales, which I was committed to never doing. It's not my path. I'm not just the most common Utah. Like, I want to be different, and they were crushing, and I was really impressed by them. And I just said, man, I'm inspired by how this job has transformed them. And the money was cool, but I was really inspired by like the skill sets they were developing, the people they were networking with, the opportunities they had, the knowledge that they were growing, how to invest your money, taxes. And I didn't have any of that. And so that initially called my attention to getting in door to door. Before I proceed, do you have any questions around this same time period?
No, you're doing perfect.
Okay, cool.
I love this.
So during the same time, I'm going on dates left and right, just like looking for that person that I wrote down, recognizing exactly what I wrote down I had to be. And I actually like tallied it up one day. I went on like over 150 first dates before I met my wife. And I was just searching for this incredible person. And so this is kind of what's happening. I'm working, I'm trying to build a business, I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to date, and I'm trying to do all these things at once. And then I go out my first summer to sell. It's 2020, and we get a call about a month before we're going to go out.
You haven't met Bree at this time?
Haven't met Bree yet. And we get a call and it says, hey, this thing called COVID-19 came out, and it's very likely we're not going to have a summer. And at this point in my life, I just dropped out of school to do summer sales because I'm going all in on this. And then I quit I also just left the tech job that was failing. So I've got $3,000 in my bank account to last me, 3 months prior to the summer. So at the time of this call, I had a couple $100 left. And I'm like, dude, I have no idea what I'm going to do if this doesn't work out. Like I'm past the point of no return.
Yeah.
Fortunately, they got really creative and they just said, hey, let's send like a group out and just test and see how it goes. If the government gets really mad, we'll have to pull it back. I ended up being in that beta group. I was so grateful. So I flew down to Arizona my first day, made a sale quickly, And then 7 hours later, I made no sales in between that time period. I'm like a grown man. I'm crying. I'm like, this is the hardest job in the world. Ended up making a sale that night. And then from there, it just started taking off. And I started figuring out the game of door to door. And that's
this is your very first year.
Yep, 2020. Okay. And then they say, okay, this beta test was great. And so they let everybody continue on with the summer. That summer was life-changing for me for a couple of reasons, because one, it was because of the uncomfort, because of how hard it was. I understood who I was. I understood what my gifts were. And also because my back was against the wall, is I only had one option, and that was to succeed. And there's so much power in that. When you have no other option but to succeed, there's no going backwards, only forward. You will figure it out. You will solve the problem. You will find the solution. And I met amazing people. I learned how to sell, which is one of the highest leverage activities in the world. I learned how to read people, how to gain trust, how to be credible. And so when I came home, I just was naturally like, man, I kind of like my mission. I want to share this with everybody. I want everybody to experience what I just experienced. So from there, for the next 5 years, I just kind of was on a mission of really helping people find an amazing opportunity where they can get incredible skill sets, develop the knowledge of how to sell and the skill set to sell, develop the knowledge and skill set to invest, and then bring people into a community that can not only help them financially, but like as a human being. And so that's what I built the last 5 years. And you asked about becoming one of the highest earners. I don't think I did anything special, except I just was people first. I always put my people first, and I always wanted to make sure that I delivered at a high level for them. I always want to make sure I kept my word to them. I always want to make sure I was transparent with them. I always want to make sure that I just believed in them, and that if they 20 years from now or 30 years from now, if they look back, they just would always say, Blake Erickson was one of the best leaders I've ever had, because he believed in me and he cared about me and he loved me. And anything outside of that was just a byproduct. Any money that came from that was just a byproduct. I would say that was the key to success.
Dude, I freaking love that. I wanted to ask a quick question about that. You talked about how you had this clear and concise plan after your mission, right?
Yeah.
Like you're painting your life right in front of you. Your intentions were clear. No option for failure. Let's get it, right? Like that in and of itself is rare in today's day and age, right? Like setting clear goals and going after them.
Yeah.
What part, because you talked about like school, you had no commitment to school. What aspect of your life clicked to where you had to be intentional about your goals and set these action steps that had no option for failure? Like what clicked?
Yeah, it's a good question. I had found that when the why is strong enough, you will always find the how. And I also had seen that when you want to serve, like when that's truly your intent, I found that God paves the way to get there. And so once again, you go back to, I had no idea how I was going to do it. I had no idea I was going to do door to door. I had no idea what companies I was going to be involved with. I wasn't going to do school, but I knew I had a direction, and that was all that was needed. And that's all that you need. And just having that direction and being really committed to it. And the reason I had that direction, which for me was I wanted to be a multimillionaire by 26, not for the money. It wasn't like, oh yeah, so people can know I have money. It's because I want to be in a financially incredible spot to go serve and to be able to give my time, talents, and resources to others and to God. And that was just like the byproduct of that. And so my learnings were, number one, when the why is strong enough, you always find the how. Having a simple direction and then reverse engineering how you're going to get there is the first step to have an amazing pathway. And then third, your identity is not shaped. Your goals aren't shaped by your identity. Your identity is shaped by your goals. Mm. And here's what's powerful about that is most of us all have goals, whether we know them or not. And majority of us don't know what they are, but they're there. For example, if You spend 3 hours of your day watching Netflix. I would say one of your goals is to watch a lot of movies. And this is unintentional, right? Yeah. This isn't obviously like a set goal, but if you look at your behavior doesn't lie. Versus if you look at someone that works out 3 hours a day, I'd say one of his goals is to be very well in shape. And so just concreting and actually saying and deciding and making a choice of what your goals are will allow everything, the pathways, but also who you need to become, begin to shape you and form you in the present. That was monumental for me.
I love that. That's probably one of my favorite teachings from you and Ben is like reaching higher limits means doing less, not more. And that's always been like this hard part that I've had to realize is adding these avenues and adding all of this. I'm going to be a master of none. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so simplifying, that's what I'm always repeating in my head. Simplify.
Good man.
Trying to be more like Blake.
Good man.
So I love it. You talked about how you grew your intention. Things are starting to form. You're giving back to the people and the money's coming, right? Where in this career did you meet Bree?
Yeah, it's the best part of the story. So I was after my first summer and I was just that typical Utah kid that's just like, oh, dude, am I ever going to get married? You know?
How old were you?
I was like 22 and I'm like just stressing out, you know? Because I'm just impatient for success like you. And it just wasn't coming. But anyways, I had this friend that I was always going on double dates with. And so he asked Bree out on this date and he called me like an hour before. He said, hey, do you want to come on this double with me? I'm like, I don't have a date, but I'll swing it if you want me to come. So I go and Bree ends up bringing her roommate. She's like 6'1". I'm 5'9.5" for everybody that knows. So I literally, bro, I get those insoles. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I put those like 2-inch insoles, bro, in my shoe. And I think I'm 6 foot for the first time in my life. And I meet Bree. I go on this double date with her and her roommate. And the whole time, her roommate was amazing. But the whole time, I just was looking at my friend. I'm just like, I hope this date doesn't go well.
You're like, we can't go home and take my shoes off.
Long story short, my friend was so abundant and he's like, dude, you could totally take her out. So we went out a month and a half later, slow burn. And she had 3 boyfriends at the time, typical Utah. And I was the 4th. And so we courted for 4 or 5 months and I just kept trying to lock her down and she wouldn't do it. So finally, after 5 months, I just said, hey, I need you to be committed. And we broke up. And a week later, she came back. She's like, all right, I'm going to go. Got rid of the other 3 boyfriends. And then...
this is Bree's friend still.
No, this is Bree. So after that date, after that first date, he allowed me to go on a date with Bree a month and a half later. No, you're all right. So then we dated for 4.5, 5 months. And then officially dated. And then we dated for another 8 to 10 months. It was amazing. Here's what I love about my wife, who we ended up marrying March 2021. She was I wish I brought it. If I showed you the sheet that I wrote down when I was 20, this is crazy. If I showed you the sheet that I wrote down when I was 20 years old and I looked at every day and I repeated every day, you would say, that's Bree. And the characteristics were, I want the most Christ-centered, loving, positive, happy, confident, and attractive woman in the world. If anyone's ever met my wife, she's just like a ball of just positivity,
she is.
happiness. And man, it was just another testament of just when you live life by design, things just work for you.
Good for you, dude.
Yeah, it was a big blessing. You're grateful she chose me.
You're living a movie, but you already know what it's going to look like.
I hope so.
That's so sick.
Yeah, it's been a big blessing. She's amazing.
I love it. Well, talk to me too. Like, this is where the outside looking in, when it, like the door-to-door space, as someone that's never been in door-to-door. I've been in sales, like the tech sales world, real estate, right? But to me, like the part that I always looked at was like, these guys are sacrificing, like, I mean, in a good way, right? Like you're being a provider, you're doing amazing things to provide for your family, but it seems hard on the wife, right?
Yeah.
You have to have
no doubt.
a stud of a wife, like like for them to be on board with this, right? Like that's my ignorant opinion on, like, I don't know anything about that, but talk to me. Like, it's got to be hard for
no doubt,
right? Like, talk to me through that.
It's an incredibly hard industry as a whole because your business is people.
Yeah.
And people don't turn off at 5.
Yep.
And so if I wasn't on a call at 10 p.m., it was like, hey, is there something wrong? You know, because people don't turn off.
Yeah.
People's problems don't turn off. Competition doesn't turn off. And so it's a little more stressful, I would say, due to that reason.
You know, please. I want you to continue that story, but for listeners that aren't super aware with this industry, you guys are usually moving away, right?
Yep.
Like in a hotel room sometimes, right? Like, talk to me more about that.
Yeah. So 4 or 5 months out of the year, you go sell door to door, usually in the summertime. And our product was pest control. And then you come back, and then you spend 7 to 8 months preparing, training, recruiting people for the next summer. And so you're all, like, the work never stops. You're either preparing or you're executing or you're doing both. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, for us, it was, we got married. Believe it or not, the 3 months to leading up, the 3 months from the day we got married to after and before that 3 month period, I got sued for multiple 7 figures, switched companies, bought our first house, broke up, got engaged, got married, went on our honeymoon. She got diagnosed with cancer, moved to California for her first summer, managed 7 teams my 3rd year of selling pest control. So all of those things happened in like this 3 month time period. And she just was an absolute champ. And I say all that to say that's like an example of just who she was, and she just wasn't shaken by any of it. She rolled with the punches so well, and there was never a complaint. I know that's cliche to say, but there was never a complaint. And I remember going to her before we were married, and this was the best thing. This is the only advice I got on marriage. But I went to her and I said, hey, this is what I want out of life. Now, when I get married, it's no longer about what I want. It's about what we want. This vision that I have, does that call to you? Does that align with you? Can you buy into that? What do you want? How can we align those? And we had this amazing conversation, hour and a half long. And she's like, yeah, I love that. Like, I love your vision. I want this. We aligned super well. And our just desires were so in tune. And when we agreed to that, I then said, this is what the price would look like. And it's not going to be coming home at 5. It's not going to be we're sleeping next to each other every single night. It's going to be late nights. It's going to be I'm always on the phone. It's going to be I'm traveling. It's going to be I'm out, you know what I mean? And she's like, I can sign up for that. And that's truly what it was for the next 3 years. It was, there's 120 days in the summer. I was usually gone 90 to 100 of them. And then when I'd get home from the summer, I'd usually go from 9 to 10. And then weekends, we'd really see each other. And so that's what the costs look like. Now, I'm grateful because I've found that she's very unique. And I can only do and succeed to the level of support and willingness that she has. And that's the same for everybody. And what I've also found while doing this job is your spouse can also, unfortunately, be the biggest bottleneck to your growth, scale, and success.
Sure. For sure. And
I've found that majority of the times that is often the case. And in my case, which is such a blessing, she is the accelerator to all success.
Like you put it so much more eloquently, but like the cliche saying of, I couldn't be where I am without my wife. Like you hear that so much, and like, I love how you put that, because I can't picture, like, real estate is a complete different game with a lot of risk involved too, right? And that's the price that you pay when I come to my wife and I lost $180,000 of our hard-earned money, and that's something, that's a pill to swallow, right? And that's like what we signed up for. There's big W's, there's L's, and something in between. And like through the years, she's learned to trust and roll with it too, right? Like it's been this wild journey, and we're amazingly like blessed to be where we are today. But it wasn't overnight. It's not all sunshines and rainbows.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the credit to the wife of an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
There's no hours, and there's a teaching that I learned from Casey Baugh, and a stud here in Utah, that talks about like extreme imbalance, right? Like the whole purpose of this podcast is the winning balance of, are you successful in business? Are you successful in your priorities, whether that be faith, whatever that entails for you, and family specifically, your family, your loved ones, all of that, right? Like that's why I created this, because when it's just my wife and I, we signed up for this, and I can run as fast as I want. Now I have a kid, my first kid, 5 months in. It's a little bit different, right? And trying to figure that out, trying to be a present father is a skill that I've been thrown into. There's no books that teach entrepreneurs how to be this. So the whole time I'm like, well, how can I get home at 5 and be present, ignore work, put work completely away? And that was like my struggle, is like, how am I going to do that with how my business operates? And the answer came to me like after like listening to Casey, or maybe it was on the podcast, whatever. But the answer was, it's never going to be that. I'm never going to have balance. In fact, it's going to be extreme imbalance. And how I am catered to that is there's some days where I'm going to come home at 9:30 p.m. and like yesterday, Tuesday, and that's what I signed up for. And the great part of my business is the extreme balance on the other side. Oh goodness. And we both hit the mic today. The extreme balance of this next day, I am going to stay at home at 11:30 p.m.
Beautiful.
11:30 a.m., have breakfast with my baby, spend time with my wife, go golfing with my wife midday. Like, and that's was the answer I've been like craving for, is like, I can have extreme imbalance on both sides and still hit the goals that I'm trying to.
So
hit.
good.
So
good. There's two quotes that come to mind hearing you speak.
Yeah.
I once heard a quote that said, "Behind every successful man, there's a woman in the background doing miracles." And then speaking of Casey, I love his quote on wealth, which is, "Take the money away, and everything you're left with is what wealth truly is."
Mm.
And when I think there's a lot of people that make 50 grand that are incredibly happy, and a lot of people that are billionaires that are not. And I was just with my barber, and he was actually talking about like, what level do I know that I'm like playing big, or how do I know I'm playing small? And it's just different for everybody. But as long as you're chasing true wealth, I think you always succeed.
I love that. I want to hear your thoughts on this too, Blake, because speaking of like, when is enough? And like, I have my answer to this today, and I have a feeling like my answer will be changing as life goes on. But like, to me, enough will never be enough with my personality of business aspirations. And that's the part that drives me. That's the part that creates the human I am today, is when I get to point B, now I'm in the room with people that are at point Z, and I'm thinking I'm a tadpole again. And it's this ongoing, the more rooms you're in. And I think it takes a certain personality to get motivated by that versus to crawl in your shell. And And so that's why I love like this podcast, being around studs like you, Blake. It's like, I love feeling like a tadpole. I love absorbing the energy from people that are like steps ahead of me. So like, what are your thoughts on that? When is enough for Blake Erickson?
Yeah, it's interesting. I personally love your take on it. So I'm a big I would say one of my core principles, or maybe part of my brand or my mission is, I want everybody to play at the highest level for themselves. And it's different for everybody, but I want to be the person that drives people to just play as big as possible. And Hormozy has a quote. He says, financial freedom is when you decide. That is, there's not an amount. It's not 20 million. It's not 50 million. It really is subject to you. Now, whatever you're chasing, you can get there. For example, if for me, the decision is $100 million is when it's enough and I get there, I'm probably not going to feel like it's enough. Right.
Yeah.
But for a guy like you, which I resonate with and I feel similar, is it's not about the money. It's about like the level of the game and what growth and sort of the process of becoming looks like and the consequence of that. For example, a material goal that I have is to have a jet at some point, a private jet. There's 0 ounce of me that cares if anybody knows that I have a private jet or that people look at me like, that's so cool. It's more about, if I'm going to play at the highest, if I'm already playing, if I'm already going to travel, why don't I just do it at the absolute highest level? If I'm already going to work, people make 50 grand. Why don't you just go work at the highest level and go make millions? If you're going to work out, you could work out and just, have a dad bod and just, stay healthy. Mm-hmm. Why not go work out to have like a body when you take your shirt off, you're absolutely stoked about? If you're going to get married, why not have you see where I'm going?
Yeah.
And so the answer to answer your question is, it depends upon which game that you want to play. But the game that I want to play for me is, I want to play every facet that I've chosen to play at the absolute highest level that there possibly is.
I love it.
Which is ongoing.
Yeah. And that's the funny part is, like, earlier on in my journey, like, I thought my stop point and my, like, this is enough is when I was truly financially free to travel with my family and not work and just be fully immersed in my family. And now that I'm like further along in this self-development journey, it's like, if I got to that point and just had the ability to turn off a switch, would I be happy? Would I be able to show up the best father that I can be if I don't feel fulfilled? And like, for me, my answer is no right now. I don't know if that'll change in the future, but that's just how I feel like.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like, I love growing. Like, that's, yeah. Anyways, so it just feels like the end goal is to show up to my kids at a higher level. But if I'm not fulfilling myself, it's kind of like the saying, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not taking care of anyone else. Right. But, I digress. That's kind of a tangent.
I love it.
From myself.
It's a deep topic.
I love it. Well, another question for you, Blake, here. I mean, you on a very high level went through some crazy dips of life, right? Of your wife getting diagnosed with cancer, with a 7-figure lawsuit. And I mean, those are some heavy topics, right? And like in entrepreneurship, it feels like there's dips.
Yeah.
Always. Like there's it's not the steadiness that a W-2 carries. Talk to me about those dips of life, and you can bring up a specific example, but and how that correlates to you as a family man.
Yeah, great question. When I think of a dip, when I picture a dip in my mind, the greatest part about every single dip that's ever happened is the other side. There's the up. if I think of a dip in the road, there's a point at the end of the dip that goes back up, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would speak to first, know that in every dip, if you are in a dip, that the dip is going to end and you'll go back up. And that's always comforting to know, because when we're in it, it's like, my life's over.
Yeah.
You know, like this lawsuit's going to bury me out, you know, I'm done for.
Yeah.
My goals are shattered, you know? But we're here, and on the other side of every dip is an increase, or, you always make it out of it.
Yeah.
And then I'd also say, dips also put things in perspective. For example, maybe there's something at work for me that's incredibly stressful. And then you go home and it's like, dude, my family's incredibly healthy. God is so good. My wife's amazing. You know, we've got food on the table and we're just incredibly blessed. So dips also have put things in perspective for me. The last thing I would say, as far as adversity goes, the greatest challenges in my life, hands down, always have and always will be for you that are listening, will be the challenges, the obstacles. Those will always be the greatest blessings. Always. I think of the times where I felt the most alone, where I felt the most stressed, where I felt the most helpless. And those were always the greatest gifts that God has ever given me. For many ways, it could have been growth. It could have been someone I met. It could have been an experience that I had. But the ultimate gift I've always been given in every adversity is it's forced me to lean on Jesus Christ and God. And we can get to a point in life where everything's good. It's like business is going great. Everyone's healthy. Mm-hmm. And it's super easy to forget about who got you there. It's super easy to forget about why you're there. It's super easy to forget about everything you've been blessed with. And I love, and I've felt, and I know that it's true for everybody else, that in those times when you turn to God, you will feel his presence more than anything else that you'll ever go through or have experience in life. And to me, those are the greatest outcomes of adversities, and those are the greatest experiences that you can experience in life. Therefore, those become the greatest gifts.
Beautiful. Well, Blake, too, I love to like bring up that visual again of that dip, right? And when you zoom out, you can see the rise, right? But like, let's say we're in the middle of the dip, and we can use the tariff stock market, for example.
Yeah.
Like the dip, we feel like we're in the middle of it, but we don't know if the trajectory is going down another 20%.
Sure.
It's hard to visualize that, right? So like, and I want you to think about this answer too, because I know I'm throwing it on the spot, but if we can picture ourselves in the middle of that dip, and you're like one of the most positive people by nature, I feel like. So like picturing yourself in the middle of that dip, what practices, what actions can people take, maybe not snap out of it, but see the broader perspective, or see the positives at that point in time?
Two tactical things. Number one is, I believe every one of us is just one conversation away to happiness, or not being stressed, or to feeling good, or feeling joy, or feeling at peace. Mm-hmm. Take for somebody that is having a very difficult relationship time and they're like in the dip. They could be one conversation away from, in that relationship, to being out the other side. Do you know Brian Johnson, the healthiest man in the world? Have you ever seen that guy?
Yeah.
So he just
trying to live till like 200.
Yeah. So he just posted a video of his dad on YouTube, and they haven't talked in 20 years or something like that. And he went and had a conversation with his dad and just like expressed everything to him. Mm-hmm. And then came out the other side. He's like, I feel like this massive weight lift off my shoulders. I feel so at peace. He was like crying and so happy. And he's been in a dip with his dad for 20 years. And all it took was one conversation. a conversation he could have had 19 years ago, 364 days ago. But he didn't. And so address it. Don't avoid it. Don't sweep it under the rug. Don't press it down, which we often do. Number 2 is, and this is a new adapted thing for me, is let it all out on paper. Journal it all out. This is how I'm feeling. Like no one's going to read this. So be as vulnerable and raw as possible. And it's incredibly therapeutic. And then I think of the stock market, lastly, is just the stock market's always made it this far. Stock market's much higher than it was 20 years ago, much higher than it was 50 years ago. It is always going to come up, just like every single dip. And don't tie your value, identity, your life to things. Tie it to people, and you'll usually turn out pretty good. If you're more attached to your stock portfolio than you are to God or your family, you're going to be disappointed 200 days of the year.
Yep, 100%.
But if that's just, something that you have and other things are greater priorities, it's not going to affect you.
I love it. Obstacles are temporary, right? And
yeah.
I mean, that's something that I love that you said, is like these action items that you can take steps towards. I think sometimes, especially like with how prevalent anxiety and depression is in today's day and age of, and I mean, I'm not this perfectly happy person 24/7 either, right? Like I've had phases that I am feeling down, that I'm feeling overwhelmed and worried. And I mean, Tony Robbins is a great example of rewiring your brain.
Yeah.
And, those action steps. Like for me, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, even as simple as dropping down and doing 30 push-ups, it's wild of like how you can rewire your brain, of just a reset.
Yeah.
Something that's physical. Journaling is one of mine too, right? Like a prayer is something for me. It's something that's physical, getting on my knees. And so like, I'm not perfect by any means, but I love that in this physical dip, there are action items that you can take to kind of snap out of it, not fully, but maybe a different perspective. Okay. So Blake, I talk about this a lot in the podcast of Utah is a very unique place, and
so special, dude.
Yes.
It's so cool.
So many beautiful aspects to it, right? And pros and cons for people that are listening, of course. But I push back on moving to Utah forever. I was like, I love my people here, like the diversity in Seattle, pros and cons, right? Like when we talk diversity, that can go a lot of ways in Seattle today's day and age. But like, I love Seattle. That's where I'm from. I didn't feel a sense of judgment, and I could live my life, right? And Utah, that was like, this is a long way of getting to where I'm trying to get. But I was focusing so much on the cons of how people view others. And when in reality, now that I've chose to move to Utah with my wife, that felt like the direction after I pushed back for a while. Utah is one of the most special places on earth for so many different reasons. I think the business culture specifically is like, I haven't lived in every state, but it's got to be up there. And
no doubt.
Yeah, it's insane. Like it took me so long to build a network in Seattle, and so much energy. And in Utah, it's such a tight knit world that a couple of people and it just spreads like wildfire. And so many people are willing to help. It's this beautiful, beautiful culture that I've learned to love. Yeah. That's the roundabout way. But in this culture, what I would describe as there's so many young hustlers that just have this special grit about them that also want this family unit.
Yeah. Whether it's the LDS background, whether it's just like how Utah moves, I couldn't tell you specifically. Yeah. But that group of people is very prevalent here. And you're
like you fit that category of a young hustler that's come out and built this beautiful family. What advice do you have to the audience that's listening, that maybe they have a young family, maybe they're this young hustler, they want to make money and they want a family unit, and sometimes those feel like they collide, right? What advice do you have to that group of people?
There's a scripture that I wish I had memorized that says, what gaineth thou if you gain all of the world or all of the riches and lose everything else? And I love that thought, because on the flip side, being in Utah, it's also pretty popular to go make a ton of money and get divorced and, have no relationship with God. I've seen it more often than the other thing.
Yeah.
Than the other side. So to answer your question, my advice to those that want to do that is identity is what you say yes to, and character is what you say no to. And your character will determine your future. It will determine the choices you make, and ultimately will determine the results and consequences you have in your life. And so be very clear and be very decisive on everything that you will say no to. Oftentimes people want to ask, what did you do to be successful? To anybody that's been successful. And more often than not, it's less about what they did and more about what they didn't do. And I would say the same thing to those that really want to have success in all aspects of life. Is it's less about, and by the way, I've got so much to work on, let me be very clear. But it's less about the things you do and more about the things you choose not to do, the people you choose not to hang out with, the environments you choose not to be in, the activities you choose not to participate in, the habits that you choose not to have, the addictions you choose not to engage in. That's what I would speak to for somebody that's saying, hey, like, how do I go do this? And then stick to that. If you're somebody that says, hey, I don't want to drink alcohol, don't negotiate that. When alcohol is presented in front of you and everyone's telling you to drink it, or it's a normal atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And so the decisions that you make today, don't negotiate them in the future.
Dude, I love that. I seriously do. I think of like young kids that I'm trying to mentor and trying to help their lives in any capacity, right? I wouldn't call myself a coach or a mentor like Blake Erickson. But,
I would.
No.
I would.
But I always talk about this realm of when there's activities, when there's decisions that you've decided upon, like, this is where I'm going to go for success. Whether it's, I'm going to talk to 25 people today about real estate, whether it's I am like not going to drink alcohol, right? Like these decisions that you've made to better your life. As soon as you go to a 92% on that decision, a 99%, a 98%, you are making way for the 70%, you're making way for the 60%, and it dwindles, right? And in today's day and age, it's like, it's so prevalent to see people set goals and 2 weeks later,
oh, for sure,
1 month later, it's over.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Because there's negotiation. That's what I freaking love what you say. If you have a diet and, oh, it's just a bag of chips. Oh, it's just this. What do you think that's telling your brain in terms of how you live your life? Right. And so I don't think anyone's going to ever be 100%, but like Atomic Habits, like it's pretty much, that book is the summary of what I'm trying to say. Is I love a part that they say, no one's going to be ever perfect, but if you miss 2 days in a row, say goodbye. And so that's my goal. Is I always try to be at that 100%. If I hit that 98%, I'm understanding that the next day I gotta hit 100% or else it's going downhill. So anyways, kind of a tangent.
Great quote.
But, yeah, dude, I'm excited to read The Science of Scaling, your book. One question too, Blake. I mean, this partnership that you have with Benjamin Hardy, like top author, Who Not How, 10x is easier than 2x. I mean, in our realm of self-development and being surrounded around entrepreneurs, I'd say he's a household name for
sure.
People that are in our circles, right? Talk to me about that partnership. How did that come up? Yeah, I'd love to hear like the journey. Like, I mean, that's a huge partnership, and I don't want to take that lightly. I want to hear all about it.
You're kind. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It has been the greatest blessing one of the greatest blessings of my life. I'm very humbled and oftentimes feel inadequate and undeserving, to be honest with you. Ben is even better of a person than everyone already holds him at a high pedestal. I even hold him at a much higher pedestal now that I've gotten to know him and learn from him. It all started actually about 12 months ago to the date. And I'd just been doing door the last 5 years, and I'd gotten pretty comfortable, and I began to stagnate in my life in just a lot of areas. And I was beginning to think about like, what's next? Like I gotta get up and get moving again. I gotta start learning at a higher rate and faster velocity. And I ultimately came to the conclusion that meant I needed to part ways from what I was doing and start something new. But start something that I could just be so passionate about and ultimately want to just give all my time and energy towards. And I knew at this point that I love speaking. I love teaching people. I love being with people. I love learning from people. And so I was beginning to think about this possible route of getting into like this training space and training people that I once was. And around this same time period, as I began to just formulate these thoughts, I hadn't taken any action yet. I felt God nudge me and just say, hey, you should call Ben Hardy. And Ben and I had met 3 years previous to this time, and we had chatted every 6 months or so. So we had a relationship, but it wasn't anything crazy.
How'd you even meet him?
We met because my mission president and him are kind of like in the same surrounding wards, which are just like same church buildings. And so I went out to visit him, and Ben was there, and then we connected, and then he would come speak to my guys, and we would just jam every once in a while.
Yeah.
He was always so abundant. And so I called him. I just said, hey, I don't know why I'm calling you. I felt like God wanted me to call you. And I don't get an inspiration very much, to be honest with you. I'm not like the guy. It's like God's always talking in his ear. Mm-hmm. But this one was just unique and distinct. And I was like, I just want to be a resource to you. And any way I could do that, let me know. Like, I want to flood the world with your curriculum because I think it's brilliant. I think it's innovative, and I think it can change lives. He's like, yeah, I'm open to that. And I was shocked. I was like, okay. So for the next 6 months, I just kept bothering him, to be honest with you. I was like, hey, what can we do here? Like, and he began to engage, and we began formulating this idea, which ultimately became scaling.com. But he was just on a path that was much higher leverage than my path, right? And so he could partner. Like 2 days ago, Tony Robbins just reached out to him. He's going to go speak. He's meeting with Tony next week, Ed Milet's next month. So like very high leverage opportunities and people. And so for him to even be engaging with me didn't make sense. But I just kept keep getting my foot in the door deeper and deeper to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to go all in on this. And so I sold all my real estate, sold any side hustles I had. I was beginning to figure out a way of how to create my my door-to-door business. So it was self-managed, and I was looking for somebody to kind of leave that with. And I was just going all in on it to show him kind of my commitment. And one day he said, okay, fly out and let's talk about this. And little did I know is when I was flying out, he was kind of more to the point where it's like, I can't go this path. But I flew out there and I said, look, we need to dominate the space of growth. No one's truly mastered and figured out just the niche of scaling. Everybody talks about it. No one really knows exactly how to do it. your concepts, the psychology, the science could be the answer to this. And he really loved that. So ultimately we ended up deciding to go into business that day, which led to us co-authoring this book. And it's been an honor and a great learning experience being a part of that process and seeing really what this framework can do for people, and seeing hundreds of people apply this and what it does for their business. And so, to be honest with you, to answer your question, I think God just really wanted it to happen. And since then, we've just had beautiful, beautiful people come on board. Like I just mentioned, Tony and them, to some degree of collaboration. We just brought on a partner last week who wrote a book called Don't Believe Everything You Think. It's one of the top selling books in the world right now. And so we've just been so blessed with amazing people. And the partnership honestly just happened through me following a prompting, being willing to bother him, and selling him on an opportunity that aligned with him a lot, and create an amazing opportunity for him financially to capitalize on it.
Dude, that's so sick. I mean, it's this crazy full circle world. Like, my assistant for my first year is now selling for you guys, and this,
that's right.
This business that you guys are taking down. I think it's so cool. Like, the message that you guys are sharing is definitely like changed my life. And so I love that mission that you guys are going to continue changing others' lives. Like,
thank you.
That's insane.
Thank you.
Well, Blake, like where you came out here on your own accord, where can people support Blake Erickson? Like, go pre-save, the science of scaling. Where else can they help Blake Erickson?
Let me speak to that. That's the only thing you could do. July 29th, it comes out. You can go on Amazon. You can pre-order, so it'll ship the day of July 29th and you'll get it. And with all the certainty and confidence and passion that I have in my heart, that book will absolutely alter your life if applied. The ideas are not fluff. The ideas are they're science-based, they're psychology-backed, they're tested, they're proven. It will genuinely create exponential results in your life. And so I'm not here to sell a book. I don't care about how many people buy the book.
Yeah.
I care about how many people we can get to scale, how many people we can help 10x their life, how many people we can help 10x their business. There's so many amazing entrepreneurs out there, have amazing ideas, amazing products, amazing businesses, amazing people, but they don't know the strategy to scale. They're stagnant. They're overwhelmed. They're running with their head cut off. And this is the solution for that. This is the solution for saying, hey, I'm sick of just growing 20% a year. I'm sick of just increasing my income, 10, 20, 30 grand every year. I'm sick of just doing 15% growth of revenue in my business. It's like, if you want to go double, triple, quadruple, 5, 10x your business in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, that's the book for you. And what you could do is go read it. Not for me, but go read it for you.
I love it. Well, just as a testament to that, like, my business will be at 100% of what I did last year by Q2.
Amazing.
So, like, it's
amazing.
It's real. Blake, like, I have one last question that I feel like I have to ask.
Please.
Because it's just, it just came to my mind. That risk that you took of dropping everything, selling everything, completely resetting, right? Walk me through that, because I don't think people realize it's much, much easier for someone that doesn't have much to go all in, because there's a little risk. But when you have done extremely well in an industry, became a top 1% earner, have these assets, have like this beautiful life, walk me through that decision of stepping away from absolutely everything for your conviction towards this.
One belief that we have is, if you're optimizing for two things, you're optimizing for nothing. And I knew that if I kept those things, it would ultimately lead to the failure of the thing that I was trying to optimize for, which was the new business. And so because of my commitment to what we wanted to create and the impact we wanted to have and the people we wanted to serve to the level that we wanted to play at, it actually just became a natural byproduct of needing to get rid of those things so that could happen. I felt that I would be underleading and underserving the people that we were serving, my partners, the business we were creating, if I had other things that I was putting time, energy, or focus into. And so there's this concept we talk about. It's in the book. It's called raising your floor. And the bigger the future you have, the higher your floor must be. The taller your ceiling, the higher your floor. The lower your ceiling, the lower your floor. And so previous to this, because some could call it a big game, I think I was playing small. Because I was playing small, I could afford to tolerate a lot of things that were below the floor. But the moment that I raised the vision, the moment that I raised the stakes, the level of the game, what we wanted to do and how we wanted to play it and at what level we wanted to play it, my old floor no longer was able to stay at that level. It raised significantly because the ceiling raised significantly, what automatically just meant almost everything that I was doing and optimizing for or putting time into, I could no longer do so. And so it actually just became the byproduct of playing a bigger game.
With that conviction and like the strong enough why that you just described, was it easy?
It's never easy, but it didn't kill me. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I can't believe I have to do this. It was, no, this makes sense to do.
Let's go.
Yeah, it was calculated, and I was like, I was stoked about it, you know? It's never easy to raise your floor, but it always feels right when you do.
That fires me up. Well, dude, I appreciate you more than you know. Hopefully,
you're incredible, brother.
Hopefully you don't forget me when you become a best-selling author.
I'm saying the same to you, man.
No. I love you, brother. I appreciate
you. Love
you too. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm going to look back on this episode, take some notes. And again, thanks for coming out, brother.
You're awesome, Tanner. Appreciate you, brother.